Welcome back to Swamp Stories, everyone. This week, your host is Caitlin Baggett, me, talking about the webcomic Nevermore. This webtoon is inspired by the many poems of Edgar Allan Poe. Nevermore has all the themes and aesthetics of Poe's work, but has less tuberculosis and more fantastical work. This period piece does an excellent job of integrating the core themes of Poe's stories, but keeps the characters three-dimensional. Even with no prior knowledge of the stories and the poems the comic takes inspiration from, it can be thoroughly understood and enjoyed. First, let's talk about the rules of Nevermore. The story takes place between the land of the living and the land of the dead. Limbo, essentially, where they are both dead and alive. Nevermore Academy is a school where those who want a second chance can fight for it. The students of Nevermore must overcome trials made by the deans, the first test being one of the most gruesome, to separate the weak from the strong. Those who could not escape the maze were immediately sent to the land of the dead. During these trials, students who experienced similar situations to the ones that they died in gained their specter form. Being both dead and alive had to give them special powers, of course. In these forms, the students have special abilities, where someone can have the power to use hungry rats against their enemies. Others' powers, they can be turned into angelic protectors to help their teammates. Because of the ongoing storyline that is still being updated, the story is far from being over. Even so, uses of foreshadowing can give us a pretty good idea of what is to come. With a wide cast of characters, Nevermore has a little bit of everything. From teacher's pets to underdogs, there are clear cliches that the comic does well with. Lenore and Annabelle Lee may look like complete opposites, but they're both working towards the goal of escaping together. While the other characters don't have connections with their past just yet, Lenore and Annabelle are recalling their past relationships in their dreams. After the first trial, a split between students who were able to go into their specter form and the specterless were made, with Lenore in the lead of the misfits and Annabelle in charge of the greedy. Though it seems that they are enemies to others, they are secretly using this facade as a way to get the upper hand. But Lenore is hesitant with the manipulation of her friends. Lenore is a charismatic, caring, but disobedient student at Nevermore. She is loyal to her friends, but if anyone messes with them, she can show a more violent side to her. Her team of misfits includes a sly Frenchman named Duke. He can be very protective, but laid back when it comes to the rules like Lenore. When Pluto was introduced, he was fear-filled and kind of a deadweight, but now he's an integral part of their group. He's shy, but extremely loyal to those around him. Morella is Lenore's roommate, and possibly the sweetest girl at Nevermore. Even though she's already manifested, or gone into her specter form, she's still stuck around with the misfit group because of how much she cared about them. Eulalie is a spooky but smart ally. She often says some odd things, but she does it in such a kind and endearing way. And Berenice is an energetic but direct companion. She often calls her group mates things like honey and babe, which just sums up her personality. She and Eula are such an amazing duo that complement each other very well. On the other side of the class viewed, we have an interesting set of antagonists. Annabelle Lee, the love interest, is notably two-faced. She often acts differently around her group compared to Lenore. She also often drops the mask when she feels like she's about to lose someone she loves. Because of the facade she has, we see her as rude and conniving around others, but sweet, loyal, and vulnerable alone Lenore. Annabelle's roommate, Ada, is an obsessive and attention-seeking girl. Though she tries to befriend Lenore, she can often be hypocritical and is attached to the other's power. Prospero is a cold and controlling co-leader who doesn't seem to care about anyone else. He is careless towards Ada's feelings and isn't close to anyone in the group. Montresor is a crass and devilish side character who has too much pride for his own good. He's possibly the most evil character in Nevermore because of his grim ideas and how he is violent towards others. Will, though, is possibly the most unproblematic character in the Annabelle group. He's an agreeable person and seems to be attached to Montresor. The story has many likable and very unlikable characters that truly immerse you in the story, feeling like you are truly a part of Lenore's friend group. And additionally, there are many character connections throughout this. Most, if not all, of the characters in Nevermore are connected to poems written by Edgar Allan Poe, some having entire poems dedicated to them. Those being poems like Lenore, Annabelle Lee, The Mask of the Red Death, and The Cask of Amontillado, and more. With Lenore specifically, although we have not seen Lenore's specter form in Nevermore, she has many connections to the poem Lenore and the Raven. In Lenore, it takes place during her funeral. Those who are mourning her are speaking out about the young girl's death, discussing how her young spirit has left her body and that she has risen to heaven. Though people speak so highly of her, others feel that it isn't quite genuine. An example of this is the quote, "Wretches, ye loved her for her wealth and hated her for her pride." These two ideas directly correlate with how those in her life view her. Lenore being short for Eleanor and meaning light is how the misfits view her. Those who follow and believe her see her as a leader to trust, a beacon of leadership and kindness. When it comes to the deans, her family and others see her as cocky, unladylike, and prideful, just like in the story. With Annabel Lee, her story is similar to Lenore's because of its title as both of their names, and it is a poem of mourning. Both of the stories are written from Poe's life of grieving his dead fiancés. His mourning of Lenore is more present in The Raven, but I'll go into more detail of that later. Annabel Lee was the first character to ascend into their spectral form, and was held as an example to the others of what their spectral form would look like. Annabel Lee is the Lady in White because she died before she got married. Those who are around her in this form feel a deep sense of loneliness and feel chilled. These are the same tones of the poem, according to the Nevermore wiki. This effect becomes worse when the Lady in White touches a person's skin, causing their teeth to chatter, skin to turn blue, and even start stammering. Along with this, one of the three main abilities is called Rigor Mortis, where she can dispel a white fog that chills her enemies and slows them down. This is an example of tuberculosis that Poe mentions in Annabel Lee. The wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. Along with this, Mayo Clinic explains that tuberculosis mainly affects the lungs. In Annabel Lee's specter design, there's a dark part of her costume, unlike the rest of the white design. This may be where she gets her powers from, and where tuberculosis infects. It's clear that her design and powers are inspired by the sickness that Poe was plagued with in his life. The Crow, or what Edgar Allan Poe fans recognize to be the Raven from The Raven. Many references in Nevermore are from The Raven, even the name. The only thing that the Raven responds within the poem is Nevermore, over and over again. In the very first chapter, the bird is following Lenore as soon as she gets to Nevermore. This could possibly be the Raven following Lenore in her afterlife, like it followed around the narrator in The Raven. Throughout the comic, Lenore seeks out the bird to ask it questions of the Academy and gets some answers. This is similar but different to the Poe poem. While the one in mourning in The Raven is asking about Lenore over and over again, Lenore is the only one in Nevermore who can ever speak to the bird. The Crow tells that Lenore's family has a generational curse. This is a connection to how tuberculosis haunted Edgar Allan Poe's life, causing misfortune for both of their families. Another small but noticeable reference to the poem is the quote, "perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door." In the background of the story, we see a bust of the ceramic figure above a door that the characters pass through, a small detail but noticeable to those who know Edgar Allan Poe's works. The power system in Nevermore is one of the many parts of why the attention to detail makes a story an amazing one. With each character, there's a set of powers and designs that perfectly describes them and their past, all of which are completely supernatural. These types are based on fictional evils or mythical creatures. The Shadow Man is based on Prospero's death from disease, looking like a plague doctor with abilities to control rats, referencing the Black Plague. Dibuk, defined as a violent wandering spirit that enters and possesses the body of a living person until exorcised, is Montresor's specter. He is hooved and horned, a red creature based on Jewish folklore. Those who have the specter are known to be evil and connected to Montresor's religious trauma. Cryptid specters are those whose forms are like animals, most commonly non-domestic animals like wolves or bears, but Pluto's a cat, the very same one that we see from the Black Cat. His ability refers to the events in the story, for example, Lucky Eye being the eye that was gouged out of the cat by the owner. Trigoli is a ghost, vampire, and or poltergeist, translated from Romanian. She is winged from many sets of sharp teeth that cause her victims to become drunk off her intoxication ability. Uli's chimera form turns her into a giant woman wearing a kimono tied with a Japanese obi belt with many patterns of purple. Her arms also have purple tiger-like markings that are connected to Chimera, a Greek mythology animal monster. Her specter form gives her the ability to dreamweave, dream eat, and dispel evil spirits. All very spooky. And that was my podcast about Nevermore, a webcomic on Webtoon inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's work. We went over the backstory of Nevermore, we went over the rules, we went over all of the characters and how they're working together, the hierarchies and groups, the cliques really. We had character connections between Nevermore and his actual poems. We talked about Lenore's specter form, how there really isn't one. We talked about Lenore, where she had a connection to her poem titled Lenore, and also in the story of The Raven, when Edgar Allan Poe is talking about Lenore and asking questions. Annabel Lee, there's a poem titled Annabel Lee, where she is affected by tuberculosis, and Annabel Lee's specter form is a physical embodiment of tuberculosis. The Crow, or otherwise known as the Raven, is also a figure that is seen throughout the story. We also talked about the supernatural elements that are a part of the specter forms of all of the characters. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast all about Nevermore.